I'm the nightmare of every pick-me girl. The wind howled in my ears like sharp blades slicing through my flesh. The sensation of free-falling from the 30th floor of the Thompson Group skyscraper toward the cold, hard ground was truly terrifying. Yet it was still not as cold as the gaze of the man I had called father for the past 20 years. He stood there on the edge of the balcony, his hands still frozen in the posture of having just pushed me off. Beside him was Nina, his illegitimate daughter, whom he always referred to as his adopted child, grinning with a barbaric smile. In an instant, my body shattered upon impact with the ground. I still managed to hear his ruthless voice echoing down. "Aurea, remember to be reincarnated into a poor, lowly family in your next life. This position of the eldest miss never belonged to you. You were merely a stepping stone for your older sister Nina." Pain tore through my soul as darkness consumed everything. I hated them. I hated those ungrateful and cruel people to my very marrow. If there were a next life, I swore I would make them pay 1,000 times over. "Aurea, Aurea, what's wrong? Wake up, child." The familiar, panicked call ringing in my ears made me bolt upright and snap my eyes open. Before me was not a dark hell or a sprawling pool of blood, but the magnificent gold-leafed ceiling of the Miller Villa. The faint, familiar scent of lavender essential oil hit my nose, leaving me dazed for a few seconds. I hurriedly placed my hand over my left chest. My heart was still thumping incessantly. Was I not dead? Or was this a dream before my soul dissipated? I turned my head to the side and saw my mother, Mrs. Victoria, the most powerful woman in New York, looking at me with eyes full of worry. She reached out to touch my forehead and asked tenderly, "What's wrong, my dear daughter? Had a nightmare?" "You're drenched in sweat." Seeing my mother's youthful and vibrant face, memories rushed back like a torrential flood. I hurriedly looked at the digital clock on the table. May 15th, 2024. Oh my God, I had truly been reborn. I had returned to that very fateful day, the day my scumbag father, Livius Miller, brought his illegitimate daughter Nina home under the guise of adopting the daughter of a deceased friend. Heaven truly has eyes. It has given me a chance to redo my life. This time, I will not let the tragedy repeat itself. I will protect my mother, protect my 2 brothers, and kick those animals out of our lives. "Aurea, how are you feeling? If you're too tired, just rest. I can call you down later when your father brings the guest home," my mother advised caringly while stroking my hair. But at that moment, a thought flashed through my mind. I screamed internally, "Asterisk! No, I absolutely cannot let Mum be deceived again. Today, that old man Livius will bring back that vixen Nina. He'll lie and say she's the child of a life-saving benefactor to make Mum feel pity and adopt her. But in reality, she's his biological daughter from his first love. Mom, don't believe him. He wants to seize our Thompson family estate to support his mistress and hidden child." I thought those were just thoughts in my head. But strangely, as soon as that train of thought ended, I saw my mother's hand, which was stroking my hair, suddenly freeze in midair. My mother opened her sharp eyes wide and stared at me. Her expression showed a hint of shock and confusion. She moved her lips as if to say something, but then stopped. I blinked innocently and asked what was wrong. My mother shook her head, her gaze becoming deeper. She murmured to herself that she must have misheard. How could she hear her daughter's voice inside her head? Just an hallucination. Right then, the butler's voice echoed from downstairs, announcing that the master had returned and had brought a very pretty young girl with him. My mother stood up, adjusted her elegant dress, and told me to come downstairs to see. I took a deep breath, trying to keep my face as calm as possible. Following behind my mother, I sneered inwardly. "Livius, Nina, it's time for your little play to end. Let's see how you perform in this life without my stupidity." Stepping down the spiral staircase covered in red velvet carpet, I was struck by the sight of Livius in an elegant suit. His face exuded the dignified air of a successful man, yet he stood there submissively. Beside him was a girl about my age, wearing a pure white dress with her hair in twin braids. Her large, watery eyes looked incredibly pitiful and harmless. That was Nina, the genuine green tea girl who destroyed my entire family in my previous life. Seeing my mother and me coming down, Livius hurriedly pulled Nina forward a few steps, his tone so tragic that anyone listening would feel pity. He said, "Victoria, come and see. This is Nina, the daughter of an old friend. Years ago, he took a bullet for me. He and his wife just passed away in an accident, and the girl is now stranded with no one to rely on. I felt so sorry for her that I wanted to bring her home for us to care for. What do you think?" Nina also knew how to coordinate. She immediately collapsed to the floor, tears falling like a heavy rain, her voice choking with sobs. "Hello, Mom. Hello, Sister Aurea. I know my status is lowly, and I wouldn't dare to dream high. Please don't chase me away. I promise to work like a horse or an ox to repay your family's kindness. I eat very little, just a sleeping spot in the corner of the kitchen is enough." That pitiful face had immediately triggered my mother's compassion in my previous life, but this life was different. I stood on the stairs looking down at that clumsy performance and thought to myself, "Oh my God, an Oscar-winning performance right there. Father, oh father, you should at least have some logic when you make things up. Which friend took a bullet for you? You've been as cowardly as a fish your whole life. You'd run away at the sight of a cockroach, so who would bother taking a bullet for you? And that girl's face clearly shows features identical to yours, especially that hooked nose and those shifty eyes. With such dominant genes, if Mum doesn't recognize it, she truly is blinded by love. Mum, look closely, she's his illegitimate daughter with that woman Claire from the West District. They've been seeing each other secretly for over a decade, and the tens of thousands of dollars in allowance you give him every month all go into the pockets of that mother and daughter." As soon as my resentful thoughts and the truth echoed in my head, I saw my mother, who was walking down, suddenly stumble and almost fall. She gripped the staircase railing tightly, her complexion turning from rosy to pale, then flushing red with anger. She stared at Livius and Nina, as if trying to pierce through their hearts and souls. Seeing his wife's strange reaction, Livius felt a pang of guilt and hurriedly ran to support her, asking frantically, "Victoria, what's wrong? Is it because you find Nina so pitiful that you're moved? I know you're the most kind-hearted person. We're doing a good deed. Feeding one more mouth is nothing compared to our family's wealth, right, dear?" My mother brushed his hand away, her gaze cold as a razor gliding over Nina's pretending to be innocent face. She took a deep breath to calm the storm surging in her heart. She told herself that perhaps she was going crazy for hearing her daughter's voice echoing in her head. But that information was too specific, too logical. She recalled the times Livius secretly answered the phone at midnight, the unclear expenditures reaching thousands of dollars on the supplementary credit card she gave him. Everything fit together perfectly like puzzle pieces with what she had just heard. My mother curled her lips into a faint smile, a smile that sent a chill down Livius's spine. She said slowly, "Oh, so she's the child of a benefactor? Then we must treat her well. Stand up. You look quite pretty, young lady, but why is it that when I look at you, you seem so familiar, like someone in this house?" My mother's suggestive remark made Livius jump. Beads of sweat began to dot his forehead. He laughed awkwardly to cover it up. "All children look somewhat alike, don't they, dear? Perhaps she has features like our Aurea, which is why she looks familiar." Nina also felt uneasy, lowering her head and not daring to look my mother in the eye. Standing beside her, I added another thought in my head. Like what? I, Aurea, am beautiful and high class, inheriting Mum's beauty. She's just a piece of low-class dross, exactly like her shifty father. Mum, try asking when her birthday is. I bet it matches the date Father went on that business trip to Boston 15 years ago. Hearing my inner voice, my mother became even more certain of the suspicion in her heart. She narrowed her eyes and asked Nina, "So how old are you this year? When is your birthday?" Nina timidly replied, "Yes, I am 15 this year. My birthday is December 12th. Bingo." Just as predicted, my mother turned to look at Livius with eyes that seemed ready to incinerate him. 15 years ago, during that exact time, Livius had used the excuse of a market survey in Boston for an entire month. When he returned, he even lied about losing his wallet and all his documents. Turns out he was frolicking with his mistress and welcoming this bastard child into the world. The fire of rage in my mother's heart flared up violently, but having navigated the business world for years, her mettle was no joke. She knew now wasn't the time to expose him. She needed concrete evidence to kick this ungrateful man out of the house without losing a single cent. She swallowed her anger and smiled falsely, saying, "Oh, what a coincidence. My husband was also away on business that month. Fine then, since you're already here, you can stay. Butler, arrange for this girl to stay in the guest room on the ground floor. Remember, just the guest room. Don't let her go to the second floor and disturb Miss Aurea's studies." Hearing this, Livius was slightly disappointed because he wanted his precious daughter to have a princess room upstairs. But seeing that his wife had agreed to adopt her, he breathed a sigh of relief and thanked her profusely. Nina, however, was clearly resentful. She shot me a jealous side-eye before lowering her gaze again to appear submissive. I found that attitude hilarious and thought, "Keep acting, darling. Let's see how long you can last. Getting into this house is only the first step." Hell is waiting for you. That night at dinner, the atmosphere in the Miller house was incredibly eerie. The long dining table was spread with all sorts of delicacies, but no one was in the mood to eat. Livius kept putting food on Nina's plate, his mouth never ceasing to praise how well-behaved and sensible she was. Nina remained timid and hesitant, checking everyone's expressions even for a single bite of rice. Occasionally she would place a piece of steak dripping with sauce onto my plate and say in a sugary sweet voice, "Sister Aurea, eat up so you can grow. I think you're a bit thin." Looking at the meat in my bowl, one wanted to vomit. In my previous life it was this very tone that deceived me, making me treat her like a biological sister, sharing everything from clothes and jewelry to our parents' love, only for her to stab me fatally in the back. I coldly picked up the meat and put it aside, replying, "Sorry, I'm losing weight, plus I don't like eating food others have touched, it's unhygienic." Nina's eyes immediately turned red, tears welling up as if I had just slapped her. She turned to look at Livius for help. Seeing this, my father slammed his chopsticks onto the table with a loud thud and shouted, "Aurea, how can you speak like that? Your sister was being kind enough to care for you, and you have that attitude? Your mother has spoiled you too much, hasn't she? Apologize to her right now." If this were my previous life, I would have argued back and run away crying, giving my father and her the chance to play the victims. But this time, I calmly took a sip of soup and thought, wow, father really protects her at all costs, doesn't he? I guess blood is thicker than water. When your biological daughter sits here, you shout at her, but for a stray, you treat her like a precious gem. Do you know that in my previous life, it was because of this indulgence of yours that she killed me? Oh, but you knew perfectly well. You were an accomplice. Mom, do you see? He's showing his true colors. My mother, who was sitting silently observing, felt her heart tighten painfully upon hearing my bitter inner voice. She couldn't believe her little daughter had to endure so much grievance. She set her bowl down, creating a dry sound that silenced the entire dining room. She looked coldly at Livius and said each word clearly. "What are you raising your voice for? Did Aurea say something wrong? She is a precious lady. She has never had to eat anyone's leftovers since she was a child. Since this Nina girl is new and doesn't know the rules, you should teach her instead of bullying my daughter. You're favoring her too much, or do you find her more important than Aurea?" Livius was tongue-tied, not expecting his wife to be so harsh today. He stammered an explanation. "I just wanted to teach the child manners." "Why are you so tense?" My mother gave a cold snort, not bothering to argue with him further. She turned and put a lobster on my plate, saying tenderly, "Just eat. If you don't like it, don't eat it. In this house, I am the boss. I'll kick out anyone who dares to bully my daughter." My mother's powerful statement made Nina shrink in fear. She realized that this Victoria was not as easily fooled as her father had said. Her plan to win her over seemed like it would be much harder than she imagined. The meal ended awkwardly, and I asked to go up to my room first. After taking a few steps up the stairs, I heard footsteps running behind me. It was Nina. She ran to block my path, holding a small box, the innocent face from earlier gone, replaced by a calculating, provocative smile. She whispered just loud enough for the two of us to hear, "Sister Aurea, don't think that being the biological daughter makes you special. Father loves me more than you. Sooner or later, this house will be mine. Just you wait and see." Having said that, she shoved the box into my hand and suddenly screamed at the top of her lungs, "Ah!" "Sister, don't push me." Then she threw herself backward, rolling down the stairs into the hall. The whole house was in chaos. Livius, who was watching TV in the living room, rushed over in a panic, finding his precious daughter lying at the foot of the stairs clutching her leg and crying out in pain. He looked up furiously at me standing alone on the stairs. His eyes were streaked with red. He roared like a wild beast, "Aurea Miller, you're a cruel creature. How dare you push your sister? I'm going to beat you to death." With that, he lunged up aggressively, intending to slap me. I stood perfectly still, calmly watching him rush toward me, while in my head I counted down. 3, 2, 1. "Second brother, make your appearance." Just as Livius's heavy hand was about to touch my cheek, another firmer hand blocked it in mid-air. It was Julian, my dear second brother. The guy who usually only knew how to bury his head in games and car racing had returned home just in time. Julian brushed his father's hand away, stood in front of me and frowned. "Old man, what do you think you're doing? Planning to hit my sister? Have you gone mad?" Livius pointed downstairs and yelled, "Look! She pushed that Nina girl down. Her leg is broken. Move aside so I can discipline her." Julian glanced down, saw Nina overacting in agony, and then looked back at me. I just shrugged and thought. Second brother, believe me, that girl fell on purpose. She's using a self-harm tactic to get father to hit me and ruin my image in front of everyone. This box in my hand, she shoved it in herself. It probably contains something stolen from Mum or something forbidden to frame me. I'll be very sad if you don't believe me. Hearing my inner voice, my brother was startled, turning to stare at me as if looking at an alien. But he quickly regained his composure. He was naturally smart, just lazy. He gave a cold smirk and said to his father, "You're hilarious, father. Our house has cameras. We can just check to see who pushed whom. No need for violence. You're getting old and muddled." Julian's words were like a bucket of cold water splashed on Livius and Nina. Nina's face turned white as a sheet, and her moaning suddenly grew quieter. She forgot that a wealthy villa has everything, surveillance cameras mounted in every corner. Oh no, the secret was out. My mother also came out of her room at this time, hearing the commotion, and shouted, "What is all this noise about?" Seeing his wife, Livius quickly changed his tone. Trying to salvage the situation, he said, "Never mind, it must be a misunderstanding. Nina probably slipped. Aurea was standing close, so I thought wrong. No need to check the cameras, it's too much trouble. Let's get the girl to the hospital first." But my mother wasn't that easygoing. She had been hearing my inner thoughts all along, and had everything figured out. She ordered coldly, "Butler, pull up the camera footage immediately and play it on the big screen in the living room. I want to see what this misunderstanding is all about." Nina lay on the ground, trembling like a leaf. She knew she was truly finished this time. She tried to struggle up and whispered, "Mum, I'm okay, it's just a light scratch, no need to watch. It was my fault for not being careful. Sister Aurea is not to blame." The more she spoke, the more her guilt showed. My mother gave a scornful laugh, walked over to her and whispered something in her ear that left her stunned. She said, "If you're going to act in a play, you should see it through to the end. Why get up so early? Was the painful fall for nothing, daughter of a benefactor?" Then she stood tall and called out to turn on the camera. On the 100-inch TV screen in the living room, the sharp images clearly showed Nina leaning back and rolling down by herself, while I was standing a meter away from her, never having touched her. The living room fell into dead silence, save for Livius's heavy breathing and Nina's fearful hiccups. My second brother clapped his hands and laughed loudly. Well, top-tier stunt skills right there. Hollywood is calling you adoptive sister. Father, your eye for people is truly amazing, bringing home a professional circus performer." Livius's face turned purple with embarrassment, not knowing where to hide his shame. He turned and gave Nina a resounding slap, shouting, "You idiot! How do you walk? Making me misunderstand my daughter. Apologize to your sister right now." Seeing that scene brought me immense satisfaction, but I knew this was just the beginning. Livius slapped Nina not out of anger, but to use a self-punishment tactic to protect her from my mother's wrath. I thought to myself, "Wow, that was a weak slap. Is that a mosquito bite on stainless steel? Act a bit better, father. That's not enough. You should be kicking her out of the house. But I know you don't dare. She's your little piece of gold and silver after all." Hearing this, my mother's gaze grew even sharper. She spoke a final, chilling sentence. "Fine, it's late. Stop the clown show. Take her to apply some medicine. But from tomorrow, I'll have people install cameras, even in the toilets. If you're going to live in this house, you'd better live decently. Don't let me catch your foxtail again." After saying that, she turned and walked straight upstairs, pulling me along, leaving the three of them standing dazed in the middle of the living room. My second brother gave me a mischievous wink and whistled as he headed back to his room, leaving Livius and Nina clutching each other in utter humiliation. That night, lying in my mother's warm embrace, I heard her let out a faint sigh. I knew this battle to protect the family had only just begun, but this time, I was no longer alone, because my inner voice had someone to listen, and those villains would never be able to live in peace under this roof again. Tomorrow, my eldest brother Alexander would return from his business trip abroad. He was the character Livius feared most, and also the person I needed to save from an upcoming horrific accident. Just wait, big brother, your sister is coming to save you. The faint morning sunlight filtered through the thick, heavy curtains, illuminating the large dining room of the Miller family. The atmosphere was so suffocating that the sound of cutlery hitting porcelain plates became jarring. After last night's disastrous stair-falling failure, Nina appeared this morning with a flamboyant white bandage on her limping leg. Her face was pale without a trace of makeup, and her eyes were swollen like olives, intentionally displaying the most pitiful, weary look possible. Livius sat at the head of the table, cutting his steak while glancing at my mother's cold expression. He cleared his throat, breaking the silence, and spoke in his usual fake tone. "Victoria, about last night I've scolded Nina. The child knows her mistake. She's new to the house and the environment, so she's psychologically unstable. Don't hold it against her. Alexander is coming home today. The boy is the pride of the entire clan. We must maintain a harmonious family atmosphere to welcome him. Don't let our son see his parents with heavy faces. It's not good." My mother took a sip of black, sugarless coffee. Her gaze swept over Nina's submissive face and stopped at her husband's dignified countenance. She gave a faint, cold smile and replied, "Sure, Harmony. I'm also looking forward to Alexander's return. Let's see what my son thinks of this sister who dropped out of the sky." My mother's suggestive remark made Livius uneasy. The hand holding the knife trembled slightly, but he tried to remain calm. He turned to advise Nina. "When your big brother returns, remember to be well behaved and greet him. Your brother is a talented but somewhat strict man. You must use your sincerity to win him over. Who knows, he might end up loving you the most in this house." Nina nodded repeatedly, a spark of unmistakable ambition flashing in her eyes. She knew Alexander was the heir to the corporation, holding the power of life and death. If she could win him over, her position in this house would be solid. Sitting next to second brother Julian, I quietly observed this fake happy family drama and sneered inwardly. "Livius, oh Livius, you're calculating the wrong move. Do you think Alexander is still that naive son who trusts you absolutely like in the previous life?" In the previous life, Alexander indeed respected him, seeing him as an idol. Even when he staged a car accident that left Alexander's legs paralyzed, Alexander still believed he had risked his life to save him from the fire. He lived in gratitude and torment for the rest of his life, voluntarily handing over all his shares for him to manage. But this life is different. I won't let my brother fall into that same trap. The sound of a car horn blaring outside the gate cut through my thoughts. The heavy iron gates opened automatically, and a shiny black Maybach glided into the yard like a powerful Black Panther. Alexander was back. He stepped out of the car in an exquisitely tailored black suit, his tall figure commanding. His handsome, angular face exuded a cold, distant aura. His regal temperament made people want to approach him, yet fear him at the same time. Livius hurriedly dropped his cutlery and ran out to meet him, his mouth stretched wide in a grin as he shouted, "Son, you're back! I missed you so much." Was the trip tiring? Nina didn't miss the opportunity either. She intentionally limped very slowly, following my father to the door with a shy, demure look. The eldest brother looked at his father and gave a polite nod of greeting, but his eyes couldn't hide his exhaustion. He said, "Hello father, hello mother, hello siblings. I'm a bit tired, so I'd like to go up to my room to rest for a bit." But Livius wouldn't let him go that easily. He pulled Alexander's arm, pushed Nina forward and introduced her. "This is Nina, the daughter of my late friend. She just came to our home yesterday. Her situation is very pitiful. From now on, she's your youngest sister. Remember to care for and guide her." Nina looked up at Alexander with large, watery eyes, her voice as sweet as sugar. "Big brother, hello. I've admired you for a long time. I heard from father how talented you are. Seeing you today, I realize you're even more dashing than in the photos. I've personally made some low-sugar cookies for you. I hope you don't mind." With that, she held out a carefully wrapped bag of cookies. Alexander frowned at the stranger standing before him. He naturally didn't like strangers, and was even more allergic to girls who acted weak and clingy like this. But out of respect for his father, he was about to reach out and take them to get it over with. At that exact moment, standing on the threshold looking down, I screamed in my heart, "Big brother, don't take those cookies, they're poisonous." Well, not literal poison, but heart poison. She's playing the role of the innocent sister to get close to you, and later she'll frame you for assaulting her to ruin your reputation. Not to mention, father is plotting for you to have a car accident this afternoon. The red sports car you usually drive, he's had someone cut the brake lines. If you step into that car, you're a goner. Brother, believe me. Please believe me. Alexander's reaching arms suddenly froze in midair. His cold face showed a flash of extreme shock. He snapped his head around to look at me, his gaze as sharp as an X-ray beam piercing through me. I was startled and blinked innocently, smiling as I said, "Big brother, why are you looking at me? Go ahead and accept your new sister's gift." Alexander swallowed hard, trying to keep his cool. He withdrew his hand, stuffed it into his pocket and said coldly, "Thank you for your kindness, but I don't like sweets. You keep them for yourself." With that, he turned to look at Livius, his gaze somewhat probing and suspicious. He asked, "Father, I plan to take the red Ferrari to meet a partner this afternoon. Have you had the car serviced?" Hearing his son ask this, Livius jumped, cold sweat beginning to pour down his back. He gave a forced laugh and replied, "Ah yes, I've sent that car for maintenance. It's in top shape, you can rest assured." "Why do you suddenly ask so specifically?" Alexander didn't answer, only giving a suggestive smirk and saying, "It's nothing. I'd rather be careful." "Well, I'm going up to my room." He brushed past Nina as if she were thin air, leaving the smile frozen on her face, her hand holding the bag of cookies trembling with embarrassment. Seeing that scene made me ecstatic. Big Brother had heard my inner voice. His life was saved. That afternoon I secretly sneaked into my Big Brother's study and found him sitting thoughtfully at his desk, with a diagram of a car's brake system on his computer screen. I knocked gently and entered. Big Brother looked up, his gaze no longer distant but filled with curiosity and depth. He beckoned me closer and asked bluntly, "Aurea, do you know something, don't you? About the car and about that Nina girl?" I pretended to be confused, shook my head and said, "I don't know anything, brother. I'm just a child."
This is the end of part 1.